Welcome. Each week I look through the literature looking for interesting stories about weather and climate. This video summarizes the results of that research for the week ending the 23rd of February 2020. Unlike many channels on YouTube, I report both the warm and the cold events, and this is an example of a cold event. Newfoundland has had back-to-back snowstorms. Over 3 meters, that's nearly 10 feet of snow has fallen. That's 50% above the average. Troops have been called out to help clear the snow, and St. John's, its capital, has been at a standstill. Now, I should also point out that snow is not necessarily an indicator of extreme cold. It is an indicator of precipitation in an area where the temperature is near or below zero. While poor old Newfoundland has been suffering from snowstorms, many of the rest of us have had a very mild winter. The reason for this is that the polar vortex and the Arctic Oscillation have hit record level highs. These are winds that circulate around the pole and bottle up much of the cold air in the Arctic. This limits the intrusion of cold snaps to the south, making them shorter and less intense. These milder winters are what we've been seeing. But I predict that this should also increase the area of Arctic sea ice, albeit temporarily. An indication of just how mild this winter has been is how much ice there is on the Great Lakes. Ice levels here are shown with various shades of grey, and you can see that the surface temperature of the lakes is fairly high. The lakes are currently at fairly high levels of water because of all the rains that we've had. This has led to high surface temperatures and therefore not very much ice. Just compare this with what it was like just 6 years ago. You can see most of the lakes were completely frozen over. Another example of a weird snowstorm was one that hit North Carolina and southern Virginia. More snow fell on one day there than they normally get in a year. Many schools were closed and lots of flights were cancelled. Oddly, we live north of this area and didn't see a single flake. Now here's an example of the other side of that same coin. This is Eagle Island in Antarctica, and it's undergone some significant snow and ice melt in a relatively short time. Now, I'm sure you've all been hearing about the record high temperatures being set in Antarctica, but look at the consequence of some of those records. This is a picture of the same island taken by the same satellite just 9 days later. Note the amount of rock that has been laid bare now, and you even have at the very top of the island large lakes forming as the ice melts. Record flooding has hit the UK. Rivers have reached record high levels. Wales and the Midlands are particularly hard hit. The rivers are still rising in the aftermath of Dennis, and yet more rain is on the way. Another example of heavy flooding in Java in Indonesia. A heavy downpour made the Semur River suddenly overflow its banks. At least 6 children died when a flash flood hit the group of students hiking along the river. Those of you that have been following my previous videos will know about the locust swarms in East Africa. The latest country to be hit by these swarms is Sudan. And there are so many of these locusts, and they're so destructive that it's actually going to be threatening the food supply for the area. In the last week, there have been far more high temperature records set than low. 540 new high temperature records. These are daily records, compared with just 42 low temperature records. Now, I should warn you that this coming week looks as though the temperature trend is going to reverse with far more low temperature records than high. But that will be the first time so far this year that is the case. Year to date is still very much in favor of high temperature records, 14,413 to 2,786. That's a ratio of nearly 6 to 1. And now the thing that has been worrying us most, and that's the spread of the coronavirus around the world. At the moment there are over 80,000 cases with 2,700 deaths. This is what the situation was a week ago, and you can see there's been an increase in China, of course, of about 11,000 cases, but significant increases in Japan, South Korea, in the Middle East, and in Italy, and those are the worrying ones. This is something worth keeping an eye on. Many of the increases in Canada and the US and the UK are returning expatriates with known infections and are being treated in hospital. That's it for this week. Stay safe, and until next time, goodbye.